Madam Deputy Speaker. As I've said before, there are many areas where I think men are disproportionately affected and which do not get enough focus in this House, and this debate should be about highlighting those things. I commend my honourable friend, the member for Mansfield, for his speech. Unsurprisingly, I completely agree with him, particularly with regard to the points he made about the disadvantage and poor outcomes, especially in education, of white working class boys, something the politically correct lobby has brushed under the carpet for too long. Just this week, Bradford Council have been consulted on their latest equality plan. They have set targets for people in jobs, including one for 65% of their top 5% of employees to be female. Now, I don't believe in quotas and targets. I believe each job should be awarded on merit and merit alone. But even if you go along with all of this so-called equality, where on earth is the equality in that target? The leader of Bradford Council represents a ward in my constituency with a high proportion of white working class people in it, and yet she is completely silent in her so-called equality plan about this, despite the fact she must know the disadvantage they face. My honourable friend, the member for Mansfield, has also brilliantly defended good dads, and I want to absolutely echo that message today. I know of men who have had their lives ruined because of a relationship breakdown, which has needlessly led to a whole family breakdown, and in some cases a mental breakdown too. I've talked about parental alienation before and do not apologise for mentioning it again. It is quite simply abuse, and the many people who have written to me with their heartbreaking personal stories show how this happens all too often. It is abuse against the alienated parent, which is not just men, and also against the sons and daughters of the parent too. It also affects a whole host of people in the wider family. I'm pleased that the government have taken some of my points on board with the domestic abuse bill going through Parliament and included parental alienation as an example of abuse in the draft statutory guidance. But I hope the government will continue to look at ways to prevent this, as it would make a huge positive difference to so many if it could be stamped out. Which finally leads me on to suicide. Men's suicide has been a common theme of all the past debates on International Men's Day, and rightly so. As has been said, suicide rates amongst men are 3 times higher than for women in the UK. The connection between relationship breakdown and suicide risk in Western countries has been studied, and I believe that the data from these studies indicates that, unsurprisingly, relationship breakdown elevates suicide risk in both sexes, and more so for men. None of the studies apparently investigated the specific effect on the likelihood of suicide following father separation from their children, despite charities reporting that this is the overwhelming source of that distress. It is quite clear to me that we need to do a lot more to ensure fathers are not stopped from seeing their children to save lives, and in these COVID lockdown times it's too easy to imagine how this will be causing even more mental health problems and, very unfortunately, more suicides.
Elliot.